In today's episode, I would like to talk about another thing that I think could really change how we live in society and has the potential to restructure everything. Now, the thing I'm talking about is called an Earthship. An Earthship is a sustainable home that's been made mostly out of recycled materials. You can grow your own food indoor year-round, regardless of the climate. You harvest rain and snow water, so you have your own drinking water supply. They have no heating or cooling system, no machines anyways. It just uses natural airflow and convection to heat and cool the house, and use solar panels or wind to get your electricity. So you're completely off of the grid in an Earthship. Now, this is a way that I see we can get ourselves off of the rat wheel. Once the building is paid for, you don't really have any bills minus some gas to use the stove and the oven and your gas-assisted hot water and your water filtration. So your only bills are your gas and your water filtration. Other than that, you're golden after the building is paid off. Granted, you've got to pay property taxes, but that's a whole other fucking story. So these houses have the potential to change the entire way we live. It can get you out of debt, and it makes you completely self-reliant. You don't need the system to survive. You would be just fine if shit hit the fan. You'd have your own water supply. You would have your own food supply. You'd have your own electricity. You would not freeze to death. You would not burn to death. You wouldn't starve to death. They're really amazing buildings, and I actually went to Taos, New Mexico, where there is the first and biggest community of Earthships in the whole world. I went down to Taos, New Mexico, and just stayed in an Earthship for 3 nights and had a really, really great time there. The stars out in the middle of the desert are insane, and it was very cool and never ran out of hot water, never ran out of electricity. Indoors, it stayed between 68 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit. I would say, give or take, right around there. Super comfortable all night, super comfortable all day. And I'll be sharing a video of what they look like inside sometime soon. But you can go on Google or YouTube and just look up Earthships and start doing some research for yourself. These buildings are made out of mostly recycled materials. The main walls of the house are made out of old tires that otherwise are pretty useless. But you pack them with dirt with a sledgehammer. Each tire winds up weighing like 300, 400 pounds. And those are creating your main walls of the house if you're in the northern hemisphere, you want your windows facing south and you make the main tire walls facing the north. But with those main tire walls facing north, you've got like a almost 3-foot wall that's encased with more earth on the other side. So they're very well insulated, very well protected from the elements, virtually fireproof. I would highly doubt they would ever fall over in an earthquake. They're literally rock solid, and they're pretty funky looking. Some people might be reminded of Tatooine and Star Wars when they look at them. They kind of look like little hobbit homes or something, but they're super cool. I was already about 99% sure that I wanted to build one of these things, but now that I've gone out there and I've stayed in one for a few days, I'm 100% sure that I want to build one of these. Earthships just seem like the answer for getting off of the rat wheel, to not be working all the time and constantly paying bills. With a traditional home, you're paying a lot of bills even after the whole home is paid off. Paying a lot of electricity, water, heating, extra electricity for having your AC running, and then septic or like sewage. And with the Earthship, you cut so much of that out of the equation. In the long run, saving tons and tons of money. So the way they work is they use rainwater and snow and they use that water 4 different times before it actually goes to the septic tank and is declared actual waste. The first time your water comes in, it gets filtered, and you use it to wash your hands and to drink and for cooking and for taking a shower. After you shower, wash your hands or whatever, that water gets filtered and it goes into your indoor greenhouse that's on the south side of your building, again, in the northern hemisphere. If you're in the southern hemisphere, you're going to want your windows facing the equator. Obviously, that would be to the north. But for the sake of practicality, I think most listeners are probably in the northern hemisphere, so I'm just going to talk about it as if you're there. Sorry, people down under South America, you're just going to have to deal with it. So after the rain or the snow falls onto your house, it gets filtered and you use it to take a shower or wash your hands or, use it for drinking water or whatever. And after it gets used in that way, it goes down the drain and it goes and automatically waters your indoor garden, your little greenhouse in the front of the house that's facing the sun. And after it's filtered through those plants, it becomes what they call gray water. That gray water then gets filtered again and it goes into your toilets. Obviously, we don't need the cleanest water ever to go to the bathroom in. So that's the third time that your water is getting used. Number 1 was showering, washing your hands. Number 2 is watering your indoor garden. Number 3 is in your toilet. And as soon as you flush your toilet, it goes outside and it waters whatever outdoor plants you have. That could be flowers or trees or bushes or whatever you got. It gets filtered again, and then it goes finally to the septic tank. So you wind up using this water multiple times between it falling onto your property and it going into the septic tank. It's pretty ingenious, and the guy that invented the concept, his name is Michael Reynolds. There's a really great documentary about this guy. You can find it on, I'm sure you can find it on Amazon. It's called Garbage Warrior. And that's how I was introduced to Earthships. I can't remember if someone told me about Earthships or if I just stumbled upon it on a YouTube rabbit hole some night. But I watched that documentary and it completely blew my mind. This guy, Michael Reynolds, who basically founded this community out in Taos, New Mexico, he's like a legit trained engineer and architect. And his whole thing was kind of like, why the hell are we still making houses the same way that we made them in 1850? The house hasn't really changed very much in the last couple hundred years. It's essentially the same kind of structure with a lot of the same amenities, and it hasn't really updated with the time. And I guess one of the things that was apparent to him at some point was the notion that a natural resource everywhere on the planet is garbage. There's so much reusable garbage on the planet that's just winding up in the oceans and not doing anybody any good. This guy figured out how to utilize that garbage and do something productive and useful with it. I think the guy's a super genius, and his ideas and inventions are very, very cool. And I literally stayed inside of one of them for a half a week, and I have nothing but great things to say about it. It was super comfortable. It was eco-friendly. You were completely self-sufficient and off the grid. There's so much to be said for that. So I think I've told you the long story short here. If any of this stuff made your ears perk up and you're interested, definitely go on Google or YouTube and look up Earthships. You could learn a whole lot about them from watching some videos on YouTube. It's a really exciting thing. They've been around for a long time, but I tell people about them all the time when I go camping or get into a conversation with somebody at a party. It's something that excites me and it comes out of my mouth often, but most people don't have a clue what they are. I've never even heard of them. I'm trying to get the word out because I think it could make a really positive impact in our society as a whole, especially with all the nonsense that's going on nowadays. I think it's looking more and more attractive to be completely self-reliant and off of the grid and not reliant on the system whatsoever for your food, water, or electricity. I'm really glad that the inventor of those, Michael Reynolds, chose to do what he's done with his life. I think about that stuff pretty often. Comedians that I love, artists that I love, inventors, people like this. I'm so grateful for them choosing to do with their life what they did. Guys like Mel Brooks or George Carlin or Leonardo da Vinci or Salvador Dali. People like this, I'm very, very glad that they chose to do what they did with their life. Could you imagine if somebody like Salvador Dali was a bank teller, or if George Carlin was working at a car wash? And not in the movie, I mean working at a car wash. We would live in such a different world. It would completely change the course of history. It would completely change the course of history, and maybe not in a good way. So to all the eccentric people out there, the artists, the nerds, the inventors, the writers, thanks for doing what you do. I appreciate it. And I know tons of other people do too, but maybe they don't get a chance to express it. So on behalf of people who enjoy art and invention and innovation, thank you. Hey everybody, thanks a lot for checking this out. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. If you want to support the podcast, you can always go to riffsordie.com and pick up some merch. You can also go to patreon.com/riffsordie and subscribe to become a patron. Feel free to shoot me an email at podcast@riffsordie.com. All questions and comments are welcome. Thanks a lot for your support. Take care, everybody.